Welcome back to the Warehouse Podcast, everyone. My name's Elijah. On this episode, before anything else, the baseball world has suffered a grievous loss this week. The Say Hey kid, Willie Mays, passed away at the age of 93. He is not an Oriole, but he deserves some space on any self-respecting baseball podcast. We're going to talk about the Orioles too, though. The Birds traveled to the Bronx and made a few statements. Firstly, that they were just far too mature to go ahead and get dragged into games of beanball with the New York Yankees. And secondly, that they are down to play games of the baseball variety and are just going to stay quiet and win. Before we get into all of that, I want to thank the sponsor of our show. Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, all the way to the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, live odds, and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. So we're going to start off with the more important portion of this podcast here. Willie Mays, once again, the Say Hey kid. I'm going to start with the baseball side of him to just start painting a picture, and we will round out with the human that he was. He was a legend in the purest, most strictly baseball sense. According to Fangraphs WAR, 149.8 WAR, good for third all-time behind Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds. One was pre-integration. One has some steroid controversies. So there is an argument to be made that this guy is the best player of all time. According to Baseball Reference, it's 156.2 WAR, which is fifth. Once again, the third position player, though, after the same two guys. On offense, he hit 660 home runs, still good for sixth all time. His career triple slash line was 301, 384, 557. That is 54% better than league average by measure of WRC plus. And again, this was a 20-plus year career. Peaked in 1965, WRC plus of 186, triple slash of 317, 398, 645. Walking more than he struck out and putting up 10.7 WAR. On the defensive side, we all know the catch, of course. You know, it's one of the most single iconic plays in all of baseball, the basket catch with his back to the entire field. But this one single fact can wrap up everything. He amassed 12 gold gloves in his career. That is tied for the most all-time for any outfielder. And the award started 6 years after he actually started playing with the New York Giants in Major League Baseball, discounting his time with the Birmingham Black Barons in the Negro Leagues. So he is not eligible for the award from his age 20 to 26 seasons, if I remember correct, because the award did not exist. And then he still manages to amass more gold gloves than any other outfielder of all time besides one guy. That one guy is Roberto Clemente, who had the same number of gold gloves, 12 gold gloves, once again, the most for outfielders ever. I'm going to just reiterate one more time, though. Started 6 years before the award was created, and he was already 26, which nowadays we all know is like about the athletic prime of an athlete. So Willie Mays starts going theoretically downhill, still amasses 12 gold gloves. But speaking of Roberto Clemente, in 1971, Willie Mays is the first recipient of the Commissioner's Award, which is now known as the Roberto Clemente Award. Just generally honors the best human in all of baseball, measured by acts of service, charity, and such. I guess, you know, continuing on with the topic of awards, he left such a mark that the World Series MVP award is now named after him as of 2017. And then for those who don't know, you know, he was close with Bobby Bonds, and so was also kind of somewhat responsible for the player just ahead of him on those WAR lists. His godson was Barry Bonds. clearly had an influence there. They had the Giants connection. But, taking a step back from him as an individual, I think something that cannot go without saying, I'm recording this on June 20th. Tonight was MLB's first game at what is Rickwood Stadium. The Giants and the Cardinals were playing there. Rickwood Stadium, the home of the Birmingham Black Barons. The Giants and Cardinals were playing there. This is a stadium that is older than Fenway. It is the oldest professional park in America. Oldest professional baseball park in America. Willie Mays had a very personal connection to the field. He grew up just, a short drive. The Baseball Barbacast guys said it was a 13-minute drive from this field. He had said to himself that what he was going to do when he grew up was he was going to play there. He said it wasn't a dream. It was just something I was going to do. And sure enough, starting at 17 years old, he ends up playing for the Birmingham Black Barons. He spends a few years there before joining the minor league team for the New York Giants. He had put out a statement just a few short days before his death saying that he would not be able to attend the game, but would be watching from home. That game obviously happened tonight, and he was not able to watch, but we are confident that his presence was felt. And so rest in peace to a true legend of baseball, Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid. There's not much else to say about it. So moving on, I'm gonna try not to disrespect the gravity of that by moving on to a subject that is somewhat so trivial, but is still what is happening with the Orioles. It's all this Yankees mess. I have thoughts. We'll back up and we'll give some context. In game 1 of this series against the Yankees that just finished up today, in the 3rd inning with the Orioles down 1-0, Albert Suarez gets Aaron Judge to a 1-2 count. The second strike was a fastball up and in. Off the plate, Judge fouled it off. For all intents and purposes, if I'm a pitcher, I won that pitch. If I am trying to challenge you inside, you are late on the pitch and you foul it off, that is a win for me. It's a 0-2 count. Suarez misses badly with the cutter, tries to go back to the spot up and in, having just set it up with some breaking stuff away, and he misses. He hits Judge in the hand. Judge would stay in the game. He would be removed for his next at-bat. Trent Grisham would enter the game. And I want to just point out a couple things first. So to this point, Suarez had already walked 2. This is only in the 3rd inning, like I mentioned. He demonstrated that he did not have his best command. It was a 1-2 count. Suarez had just beaten Judge on this pitch up and in. Judge is the leadoff hitter in the inning, and the Orioles are already losing. It's just not a situation that you're going to hit somebody in. It just doesn't make sense. You're not going to put the leadoff guy on in this game against the American League leaders, the division leaders. When you're already down a run, you're not going to do it on a 1-2 count. If you're trying to send a message, maybe for retribution for Juan Soto bumping into Jordan Westburg in the 1st inning, if you're trying to send a message, you're going to do it on the first pitch. You're going to go right after the guy and you're going to say, hey, here's 95. That was just not what happened. He's like working the count. He had already gone to that spot once in the at bat, and then he missed with it. It's very simple. If you're looking for like retribution for Juan Soto running into Jordan Westburg, then you'd hit Juan Soto. I don't know. It's not like some super intellectual game where we're trying to send subliminal messages. We're not going to hit Juan Soto. We're going to hit Aaron Judge, but we're not going to hit Aaron Judge on the 1st pitch. We're going to hit him on the 4th pitch so that we can just, outthink them. What is the argument here? It's nonsensical. So that's one set of the pretext. And then Keegan Aiken enters the game in the 4th. Keegan Aiken, noted flamethrower, noted command artist, the kind of guy that we would put in the game to send a message to the New York Yankees by putting something up under the ribs. No, it's Keegan Aiken. It's Keegan Aiken, guys. It's Keegan Aiken. Keegan Aiken on the second pitch of the at-bat again, once again, did not hit him first pitch. Hits Gleyber Torres. Yankees fans are big mad. Boos are raining down in the stadium. Michael Kay on the Yankees broadcast starts going off about, well, when do you think the manager is going to go start telling his pitchers to go send a message? This is, it's going too far. And then Talking Yanks on Twitter, it's a John Boy show, tweets, quote, "It's on site," with a clip of Gleyber being hit. I shot down the idea that Aaron Judge was hit on purpose, but I think the only thing there is about like Gleyber Torres that can shut this down is, he's just like not a target. You're not sending a message by hitting Gleyber Torres. He's hitting 219, and I guess I don't think a lot of Yankees fans listen to this show, but if they are, this is a reality check. Gleyber Torres is not that good. He is hitting 219. He's amassed 0.5 FWAR. In terms of Orioles, he would sit between Jorge Mateo and Ramon Urias. It's like, argue not fully part-time guys, but two guys who are not starters on our team. And in fact, on the Yankees, he's the 8th most valuable position player behind their number 2 catcher, Austin Wells. So once again, if the Orioles are trying to send a message, Gleyber Torres is just not that guy. He's just not that good. And people really need to just understand this. Gleyber Torres is not the guy that the Orioles would be sending a message with. So despite that, there is the broadcast going off. There is, and I guess one note on the broadcast, my brother said, Jesse, you guys know him. My brother said that, he thinks that some broadcasts would be doing that. And I think the important point is they didn't say, when are the umpires going to start giving some warnings? This is getting out of hand. They said some pitchers are better about going out there and policing the situation and don't need to be told by the managers. But maybe Brad Ausmus would need to tell them. It's just it's just not the right angle to take. They are clearly trying to impress upon the fact that somebody should be hit. And, I used the word advocating on Twitter and a bunch of people hung up on it. It was a whole thing. But, it is the most subliminal way that Yankees announcers could be advocating for it. They are arguing that this is the situation where the Yankees are going to start to retaliate, and should be. So there's that. There is the Talking Yanks context. There is just generally on Twitter. When is it not a disgusting place? But people are talking about going headhunting for Hunter. One person going so far as to say they wanted to see him writhing in pain. This is just generally unacceptable behavior from civilized human beings. I want to start with that. It's a reminder to everyone that wishing for somebody to be hurt is a gross display of your values and priorities. I played some baseball in my day and I loved physics growing up. And so after hearing an offhand comment about what force a skull could take, I was like, okay, what could I do that? And so I went and I ran some calculations, and sure enough, as I was in high school as a pitcher, believe me, I was not at the point of throwing 95 miles an hour, not like I ever was at the point of throwing 95, but I could crack a skull in high school. This is very, very real stuff. It's not the kind of thing you mess with. Sure, they wear helmets, but, bones break. The Dodgers just lost Mookie Betts. The same reason that the Yankees fans were mad and scared about Aaron Judge. I get being scared, and I didn't want Aaron Judge to be hit. It's not like that. But you got to understand that just carelessly advocating for people to get hit and for people to go headhunting is just not I don't know. It's nonsensical. And if you advocate for anything, you advocate for umpires to step in, police the situation, and get a grip on it, so that nobody does get hurt. And you talk with your play on the field, and that is very much what the Orioles did. I'll get to that a little bit, but back to this game. Nestor Cortez did buzz the tower on Gunnar. once again, this was the second pitch of the at-bat, and the sequencing did make some sense. The previous pitch was a cutter away, much like it was for Albert Suarez. I do not think this was intentional. Yankee Stadium loved it, though, started clapping. And so that's why I'm putting it here. Not to say that, the Yankees were headhunting for Gunnar in this first game, but just like illustrating context around it, once again, with social media, fans in the stadium, everybody is clearly advocating for Gunnar to get taken out, quote unquote. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess like the biggest thing, I know it's this big urban jungle, but like Yankees fans, just please get to Central Park and touch some grass. It is not normal to be advocating for people to get hurt. It is not normal to be like totally misconstruing these basic like accidents, in the course of baseball. And I don't know, just get a grip. It again, like it was a 1-2 count against Judge, and it's Gleyber Torres. I'm not like entertaining anything further on Gleyber Torres. He's not that dude. I can't stand it. Anyway, so the Yankees after the game, including Judge himself, start making comments to the effect of like not liking how the Orioles pitch. This honestly doesn't bother me that much. I think that we saw it in the first series in Baltimore. Juan Soto staring down Dean Kramer on the home run, saying he didn't like the Soto shuffle. I bet he didn't like that home run either. I think that, it's a very intentional thing. I think that the Orioles and their leaders in particular, in Soto and Judge, are creating a narrative, are creating tension, are creating a rivalry, and assuming that they, probably as more veteran players relative to the young Orioles core, are going to be able to handle that pressure. Are going to be able to, like channel that into a more competitive edge, I guess. Take a quick sip of water. Yeah, so I think the Yankees are going to assume that they can channel that in a way that the Orioles will not be able to. And so they know this is a battle for the division. They know this is really probably a battle for the American League. They're creating this tension. They're engaging fans. They're creating theater, and that's really fine. And to an extent, like all of us are a little bit extra excited to see, Juan Soto swing and miss on a Cole Irvin curveball or whatever, because he was saying that about Dean Kramer early in the year, and we're like, we don't get the point. I don't know why he's saying it, but now I don't like Juan Soto. So they are doing it for us, whether they're whether we're the target audience or not. They're creating this theater around the rivalry that will develop this year. And I think that's a very intentional thing. I think that the Yankees are entertainers to an extent, and we should almost take it as a compliment. We are being, for all intents and purposes, singled out by the Yankees as their competition. They went and acquired this superstar, and they're clearly going all in for Soto, right? He is going to hit free agency. He's not taking an extension. Trading for this 1 year of him is saying we are going for it this year. And they traded a lot. Michael King is flying high over there. Drew Thorpe is already coming up for the White Sox after he got flipped from the Padres. They gave up a lot to get Juan Soto, and this is the 1 year that they will have him, theoretically. So they're going all in, and they see the Orioles as their top competition. And, they are, I think, just trying to augment this rivalry with these like made up stories, but it's gamesmanship, it's an angle, and that's fine. I'm not too mad at that. I don't like get mad at the players for that necessarily. It's a strategy. Clearly the Orioles are not really partaking in it. If they are, it is purely from the standpoint of, I'm just going to swallow that, let it burn in my stomach, and then come out. And I guess that's kind of what happens here in game two. Game two is really proceeding pretty normally until the 7th inning. Victor Gonzalez had come in the 6th. He has faced 4 hitters up to this point. And just for added context, has missed arm side exactly one time in those 4 hitters, and that was with a changeup. Sure enough, first pitch, 94.2 miles an hour, drills Gunnar in the upper back. I'm not going to give this a lot of time. I will say Yankees fans clapped again, naturally. And the way that I said I'm not going to give this my time, Gunnar said he's going to do the exact same thing. He threw his bat pretty angrily, but we all know that every time he gets a free base, that's just what he does. It's par for the course. So he gets on base, throws the bat, throws the pad angrily, and then he immediately steals second. Excuse me. Immediately steals second. Ryan Mountcastle drives him in. A double over Juan Soto. Mountcastle takes third on the error. And in the most beautiful, just picturesque, perfect type of irony, the Orioles would go on to win this game by 1 run. And I bet they really, really would have loved if their nice lefty reliever, Victor Gonzalez, would have had a good lefty-lefty matchup against Gunnar Henderson rather than drilling him in the back and putting him on base to be, just another insurance run for us. So, yeah, I guess stay mad, New York. We will keep on winning. To talk a little bit more about the maturity of the Orioles team, 5 Orioles were hit in this series. Or, I'm sorry, 5 Orioles were hit in the first series, and that's including Gunnar. It was on his hands, and the O's didn't do anything. After Gunnar was hit in game 2, I just told you we collected the free run, and we grinded out this extremely tough victory. Colton Cowser was also hit in game 2. Oh, and Jordan Westberg and Austin Hayes were hit in game 3. So all in all, we had 4 guys hit. They had 2, and they also hit 5 more in the previous series. You do not see Orioles fans making a big deal. I think Gunnar was the only one that was intentional. I do not think all of the others were. But the Orioles really just rose above all this noise. They refused to just give into that temptation of getting angry, of letting things flare up and letting their emotions get out of control. And they very simply just took 2 out of 3 from a division leader, from a league leader in their house. They maintained composure, they battled, and they won. The Orioles, that is composure beyond their years. They kept their heads down. I guess I will say Ryan O'Hearn, I definitely saw O'Hearn's head pop up a couple times against Gunnar, or with the Gunnar hit by pitch, and then the Cowser one as well. He looked a little bit ready for some action, but cooler heads prevailed. The Orioles are now 5-2 against the Yankees this season. Took the series in commanding fashion today. And the Yankees' young Cy Young contender, Luis Gil, he's been around for a couple years. He is still rookie eligible, though, interestingly enough. Upper 90s fastball, developed a changeup this year. He's been great. He was torched for 7 runs. He only managed 1 out in the 2nd inning. The Orioles would win by a final score of 17-5. Pouring it on badly enough that we got Jose Trevino in the last inning, position player pitching. And that is how the Orioles walked out of Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. It just feels good. This was a statement series. The Orioles, once again, are 5-2 against the Yankees. They are only a half game back in the division now, 2 in the win column, tied in the loss column. And so the Orioles will try to carry this momentum. Next up, we're going over to Houston. Actually, let me back up a little bit. We'll get to Houston in a second. So the other thing, I was going to tell you about the Orioles rotation, and the reason that I am pausing right here is because the Orioles rotation took a huge, huge hit that I managed to skip right over in my outline. I don't know who does the prep for this stuff. We have a guy usually. He's me. I'm the guy. I did this. I skipped over it. Kyle Bradish underwent Tommy John surgery with an internal brace procedure. This news came out on Tuesday, if I remember correctly. Cannot describe how much of a loss this is for the Orioles. Kyle Bradish really, beyond how good he was last year, I'm going to get another sip of water real quick. Beyond how good he was last year, Kyle Bradish, he came out this year. He set career highs in velocity. His sinker was just demonic. I mean, he hit 98.6 in this last start before exiting. Looked really, really, really good. ERA was in the twos. He was striking out guys at a phenomenal clip. Was walking a couple more guys. That's fine. We'll take the strikeouts. We'll take the dominant stuff. And the Orioles rotation was really, really shaping out beautifully. You just had this dream of the playoff three being Corbin, Bradish, and Grayson. We've talked about that plenty of times on this podcast. That will not come to happen. So Kyle Bradish, it's an expected 12 to 18 months. Theoretically, could get him back mid to the end of next year. We shouldn't necessarily hold out hope. We are hoping the best for him, but the Orioles will need to get by without it. Tyler talked on our last episode a little bit about Cade Povich and how he very much becomes integral to the future of this team. I think that's absolutely true. That said, I think you will start to hear names like Eric Fetty, Garrett Crochet, maybe Cal Quantrill from the Rockies. Some of these starting pitchers that should theoretically be available, the Orioles are going to start to be in talks. We did see a article from The Athletic that came out this morning saying the Orioles were willing to stand pat. That might be a little bit of gamesmanship from the front office. I don't think they're necessarily, averse to jumping in right now. But that said, I do think that it's them saying, we're not going to overpay to jump the line. We are going to just let the market play out, see what happens. Albert Suarez is not necessarily the ideal candidate to have in the rotation. He has not been able to miss bats really at all since moving back to the rotation. Cade Povich, he's shown some very good things. He's limiting weak contact in a beautiful, beautiful way, but has been walking some guys, has not been striking out a ton. So you do want to see a little bit more there. That said, Dean Kramer is supposed to make a rehab start later this week. We do expect to get him back in the next couple weeks. That will be huge for the Orioles. Either Suarez, Irvin, Povich, one of these guys could theoretically move back to the pen. We can option Nick Vespi for the 75th time and theoretically shore things up a little bit that way. We'll see how it all plays out. At this time, just taking stock, it's interesting that the Orioles have managed to lose 3 starting pitchers. And it's not just pitchers, it is 3 starting pitchers from lose 3 starting pitchers to a, elbow, Tommy John or internal brace procedure in the span of about a month here. Pitching injuries are, of course, all over the place. We are hoping for the best for all of those guys in a speedy recovery, whatever that means. But our pitching depth that, a month ago we were saying, oh my God, look at this team. We are chilling with John Means in the rotation. Dean Kramer, Kyle Bradish just came back, Grayson, Corbin Burns, and we've got these 3 guys, Cole Irvin with a 2 ERA, Albert Suarez, who's, a renaissance man. We were looking at all that and saying, my God, this team has so much depth. This is miraculous. And instead, we're now sitting here. That depth has been totally wiped out. You now look at the next man up, and it's probably Chase McDermott in AAA. That's not the most comforting thing. He has been good. He strikes out a lot of guys. He also walks too many right now. So hopefully Dean will come back, start to replenish that depth a little bit, and do expect to hear more and more rumors about the Orioles shopping around on the starting pitching market. They are obviously a tight-lipped front office. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but I do think that you'll start to hear it, and we'll keep you updated here on the Warehouse Pod. Now to the next stop. Yeah, so the Orioles are heading to Houston, 3 games set over the weekend. Somehow this Houston team is still struggling. They are 5 games under 500. They just hilariously, in case you missed this, released Jose Abreu, who last year they signed to a 3-year, I think $70-something million contract. I think that's right. So they're releasing him partway through the second season. So he's still owed like $30 million or something. And they're just like, yeah, we will pay you to not play for us anymore. Just, I'm begging you. Kind of like we did with Chris Davis. It was something like that. So we're going to go into Houston. Justin Verlander just got hurt again. He's on the IL with some neck discomfort. Some young guy from AA, I'm forgetting the name right now, is coming up to face us tomorrow night. Grayson will take the ball against him for the opener. Corbin Burns on Saturday, and then known assaulter Albert Suarez on Sunday. TBD if he throws at Yordan Alvarez. He's just a hothead, and I guess we'll find out. That's just how it is. You never know with these Orioles. So thank you for listening, everyone. Like and comment on this episode to let us know what you think. As always, can subscribe and follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can find us over on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. You can email us, thewarehousepod@gmail.com, or give us a follow on Twitter, where we are currently having Yankees fans calling us bozos, idiots, and soft all at the same time. And a couple words that are not podcast savory, so we're going to skip that. But we're over there on Twitter, @thewarehousepod. Come check us out. And until next time, this has been the Warehouse Podcast. My name's Elijah. Go O's.